Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is a new podcast that we're launching today, The Dark Horse. I am Sabina Covo.
And I'm Danielle Garaicoechea.
And when we thought about this podcast, we've been planning it for a couple of months, and the name came to Danielle's, I guess, idea, brain. Why, Danny?
Well, we both like horses is one thing, but the name came because the dark horse is the unexpected person that succeeds. And we wanted to talk about women that are successful, that are breaking industries, that are changing things in different types of industries. So that's why we wanted to do it.
And even though the two of us are going to be your host, today I'm going to interview Danielle.
Well, what about you?
No, I'm interviewing you today. That's what we said in pre-production. So, Danny, I wanted to start the podcast because you're a person that have been in the real estate industry for quite a long time. Why did you get into the real estate industry? And also tell me a little bit about you as a woman, as a person.
Okay, so where do we start? As a person, I grew up in a lot of different countries because my dad was a diplomat. And I think that really shaped who I am today, because it gave me a big perspective on the world. It gave me a global perspective. It gave me access to people in different countries, to different languages. And that, even though it wasn't my original intent to go into real estate, I think is what really pushed me into real estate. Because as I was traveling for work, people were asking questions. How do I invest in the US? How can I get a property? Do I have to be a resident? Do I have to be a citizen? How can I start? And I knew about real estate, but I wasn't really selling it at the time. And that's what got me started into real estate.
Which countries? You mentioned that you were part of, the travel that your dad did and that you lived in different countries, but which one specific?
Oh my gosh. So I lived in Mexico, Venezuela.
And you're Venezuela?
Yes, originally. I don't know if I can say I'm totally Venezuelan because every single place I lived in affected a bit my culture.
You were born in which city in Venezuela?
In Caracas. I was born there and lived in, let's start. Mexico, Libya, Nigeria, Holland, France, Romania, and then I moved to the United States to go to college here.
Oh my God, very diverse and very interesting countries. Can you say you had a favorite or you have a favorite?
I think it depends on the times. Like when I was small, I think Holland was just fantastic because I could ride my bike everywhere, the tulips, and having access to so many places to go to. Like you could go to Belgium for the day or go to France for another day. It was nice. But afterwards, I fell in love with Paris. I thought it was a magical city. I think the bridges, the architecture, the food. So I think as you grow, you also change what you like in places.
And that actually gave you a lot of diverse ideas, I guess. And when exactly, or which was the year that you came to the United States?
I came to the U.S. to say the year. That's when I aged it.
No, you don't need to say the age.
No, I came to the U.S. in the late 90s. How's that?
Late 90s, okay. And then you stayed. You didn't go anywhere else.
Yes, I went to college here. And
where did you go to college?
I went to college. My first college here was American University in DC, and I got my bachelor's there in finance and international management. And then I started working in the DC area. I stayed, got my master's in business technologies there, worked in DC in the financial industry instead of real estate. So more on the aspect of doing financial reporting and planning, budgets, not that fun when you're sitting behind the computer all day. And I moved to Florida in 2006, and that's when I really started getting more involved in real estate.
And nowadays, you are pretty successful. You've been in this industry for a long time. And one of the things that I've heard is that it's a tough industry for women at the beginning, but that now women have been not only growing into the industry, but a little bit of, I would say, controlling the industry in a sense.
There's a lot more women involved, especially when it comes to the real estate sales. You see a lot more women in that industry. Now, when it comes to development, you still see a big gap between women and men being in that industry, in that side of the business. In the construction side, obviously, there's a lot less women that are involved. But it's interesting because there are a couple of women in very high positions in development And sometimes people say, "Oh, so you're working for your husband or you're working for," and you're like, "No, no, this is me." So you still
Still
get that.
happens. Still happens, which is incredible because at the end of the day, supposedly the United States of America is one of the countries in the world that has achieved more gender equality. But some people say that is not true. I mean, I've seen studies where we're still like in a 20% gap in not only what we get paid, but also in the way that we're treated. Do you think that happened to you at some point in your life, or you totally think that's not true?
I think it did. And I also had two different things that happened to me. Like, I know that when I started working, my salary was definitely a lot less than men that were in the same positions, whether they had just started graduating from college or had the same amount of knowledge. But then I also had the other perspective that when I actually got into management, I had men who didn't want to report to a woman. So
Oh, wow.
very interesting, especially because they were younger. So in my mind, the younger generation had already broken that barrier, but they hadn't. So it was really complex to deal with at the beginning.
I was watching the other day a Netflix series that I strongly recommended. It's in Spanish and it's produced in Spain. It's called Macho Alfa. And you totally reminded me of this episode where he's a producer, I think, or producer actor. And he was independent. And then he got, I think he got a contract. The contract didn't work out. So he went to work for a production company, all not only directed by women, but also produced by women. And they start producing this episode where technically women rule. Very similar to like Wonder Woman. You know, that where Wonder Woman stars, that they have this wonderful place full of horses and all the exactly. And just to make a long story short, at the end of the episode, he goes and they have to present the production to in a press conference. And when the director, she's a woman, starts presenting, he takes over. And he totally like presents over her. It's incredible. And then a bunch of things happen. But we're also talking here about Spain, which is a pretty developed country with a feminist movement that is super, super strong. Some people like it, some people don't. But bottom line, I'm not going to say I'm a feminist because I'm not. I think that I'm right in the middle. I think that women, we have a lot of talent, and that men have a lot of talent. And the best thing that we can do is use both, right? But to what we were saying, it keeps happening. Oh, are you the wife of the owner of the shop? And they're like, no, I'm the owner of the shop.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the cultures of the person that you're talking to. Then it's necessarily assumed that that's what it is, Like if you talk to someone from certain countries in Latin America or certain regions of it, they immediately assume it's the man that owns the business instead of, wow, it's incredible that you do. A couple of months ago, I was in Argentina and we gave a conference. 99% of the people were men. And I think there were like 3 women. And because I spoke as one of the guests, one of the women approached me afterwards saying, wow, it was so nice to hear a woman talk about, the economy and talk about all this stuff and have all these men listening, because you don't see that much. So sometimes we forget that for us it's become more usual to see women in conferences, in different positions, in industries. Here in Miami, for example, you're used to it. But in other areas, it's still not that way. Or people don't know that much of women that are successful yet.
Even though, for instance, in Latin America, in other countries of the world, for example, Germany, we already saw a woman in a presidential position. So we had Angela Merkel, they had in Argentina Cristina Fernandez, Chile had a woman president, and some others. Here in the United States, we have not seen that as yet. Well, we still need to wait like 3 years and 7 months and see what happens. And I see it very complicated, but at the same time, I think that telling stories just to make sure that women can get recognized for everything that we do is important. You're also a mom, which I think it's key, because I've had, a lot of pushback in my career because I wanted to be a mom. And I worked on TV. I still work on TV, but I worked on TV full time for more than 20 years. And being a mom was not the best thing to do when you are a professional, at least for my generation. I'm not sure if it happened
I
to
think
you.
it's hard because there's so many expectations, and don't get me wrong, but social media is great, but there's other parts that are difficult because it shows this perfect image of a mother, let's say on social media, right? So you have some of the moms posting, the perfect first day of school, giving their kids, the balloons and all these different things that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Like, I sent my kid just with his lunchbox. That's it. I took a picture and I forgot about everything else. But when you're trying to juggle between work and kids, a husband, a family, all of it, it's hard sometimes to find balance. Sometimes I feel like I am more focused on work and I have to reel back and be like, okay, I have to spend more time with the kids. And sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm focusing too much on this, so now I need to go to this. So finding the balance, sometimes it's very hard. And I can't say that I have it to a science because it always changes. And as the kids grow, their stuff changes too. Like their activities, or if you have to go to school, like managing all of it, it's hard.
It's hard, but it's not impossible, which is what I think that employers are finally understanding. I remember when I became a mom for the first time, 16 years ago, there was no place on probably any TV station in Miami where you could just not only breastfeed your child, like we see places at the airport, if you wanted to come in part time and you wanted to bring the baby, but not even like stations, to make sure that you could keep up if you were not aside your baby. And it has been changing slowly, but at the same time, there was this feeling that, okay, if you want to be a mom and you're going to take your maternity leave, maybe you shouldn't be a professional. I think for the newer generations, that has changed. I'm not sure if you think the same.
I think there has been some change, but I don't think it's in all of the industries yet. I think it depends what industry you're in. They're a little more flexible than in others. It's still not 100% there where, okay, it's fine for you to take some time off and be with your kids, or, if you ask for an hour and a half, let's say, to go to an event and you come back, sometimes they view that as you not caring for your job, but you do. You put in the time, you put in the work, you're there, you're coming up with ideas, but you also don't want to miss out on the kids' stuff because they only grow up once. So if you don't go to one play, then you've got, the upset kid, but you make the balances. And I think it's hard for some people to understand that you can do both.
Have you ever felt that you were not the perfect mom or not even close?
Always.
How many times did you send your kid to school without their costume?
I mean, sometimes it's like you read the email late, right? You're like, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock at night. I need to go find whatever it is that
They have to go to be dressed like the jungle, and then you get there and all of these kids are dressed like a giraffe, a lion, and then your kid comes in.
That part I do feel like it's very hard. Like they don't understand that, you do have working parents.
And many of us are working parents, especially with the cost of living. Where both of us are here in Florida, and the cost of living has increased in the past 3 years like crazy. And I've seen that more couples have to actually be in the workforce. It's harder to be a stay-at-home mom, but I respect a lot the women who stay at home.
It's a lot of work. People don't give them enough credit. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would go insane because I need to have conversations with adults. So yeah, it is very hard. But it is possible to do both, to do a job, to figure out the balance with your family, with your kids. And you know what? You also need balance with yourself. I mean, that's super important. You need to learn how to make time for yourself, whether it's meditation, reading books, any type of activity, tennis, swimming, going out, even just walking. Just a little walk can help because there is so much stress going on everywhere. Whether you look at the news, whether it's at work, whether it's your family or your neighbor or your kids. So kind of finding some way, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, to relax and be just.
Do you think that the feminist movement gave us more work? I know it's a tough, controversial question.
In a way, I feel like it put a target on us that we didn't need. I don't know if that makes any sense. because I feel like it made it look like we were just complaining instead of being able to show what we're capable of.
I respect the fact that the feminist movement was able to actually achieve so much. And I admire when someone says, I'm a feminist. And I love interviewing women who can actually explain themselves pretty well about it. One day I was talking to someone that was telling me, well, now it's not only that we need to work, we need to produce, but at the same time, we need to clean, and they don't clean. And there was all this complaint. I think that we're still evolving in what a couple does. I do see more men doing the women role. And also, it also depends on the culture, right?
Yes, for sure, for sure. I have seen a lot more dads helping and trying to get involved, but there's certain things that it's still just mom.
Going back to your professional life, tell me, how's your day? What do you do? What's I would say a description of Danielle's day?
I wish I had a description of my day because a lot of it starts with, and you've seen it. My notes of this is what I'm going to get accomplished, and I get 3 things accomplished out of a list.
Oh,
of
I've seen
things.
your to-do list. I'm a witness to that.
So as much as I want to say I get a lot of it done, some days it just doesn't happen because you might have a client that calls that day and says, I'm landing in Miami and this is when I have time to go see properties and this is what I want to look at. And you're like, okay, erase, let's start again. How do I move everything around? But a lot of it starts, I try to work out every morning. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. And spend some time reading. I've been reading your books. But, that it's something that I find that if I don't make the time for me in the beginning of the morning, I just don't do it. So if I want to work out, if I want to do something, that's where it has to start. And the rest of the day, it's juggling, work, the different things that we have to do, whether it's trying to figure out social media, trying to figure out, reaching out to the clients, calling them back, looking at properties, driving to zoning meetings. I mean, there's just so many different things that you have to do.
Danielle, I just want to remind the people who are watching us or listening to us, this is the Dark Horse podcast. And because we don't have a lot of time, I would like to remind everyone that is actually here with us what's going to happen and who are we going to be interviewing. If you can please invite our audience.
We're looking to interview women that are successful, that have succeeded, that have gone through challenges and overcome them, that they are successful in their industries, because there are so many stories that need to be told. So many different types of women out there breaking barriers, and not everybody knows about it. And it could be that inspiration, that little, glimpse that someone gets that they're in college and they're like, that's what I want to do. That's the person I want to be like. So that's why we're doing this.
And I want to invite everyone for our YouTube channel, which is coming up. It's in production. You can listen to us on Spotify and all of the other platforms that my producer, Andrea, is actually telling me to explain. But the most important thing is that we want this podcast to be a mentor for whichever industry you want to be, for you to be an entrepreneur, to become an entrepreneur. If you have an idea, if you want to nominate someone for an interview, we're here. And we just wanted to thank you for today because it's our first one.
Thank you.